Texas at Georgia. Georgia favored by 6. Curious to see if that number moves at all. 7:30 Eastern, ABC. This is Herbie and Fowler. For Texas, man, it feels like they're kind of hot at the right time. Feels like they finally found their mojo. Arch Manning went for over 300 yards the last 2 weeks. Got a little bye week. Hit the Warby Parkers while you're watching some games. You're hitting the Viore Sweats if you're Arch Manning. You're the master of your own fate if you're Texas. I know it doesn't feel like it across the college football public because look at Texas. You say, okay, 2-loss team. Already lost to Ohio State to start the year. Yeah, that ugly Florida loss. Y'all, if Texas wins out, they will not just be in the college football playoff. That's obvious. They might get a bye in the college football playoff. If they beat Georgia in this game, then beat A&M to end the season, and then likely beat Alabama in the SEC championship game is who they would play, I don't think that team is playing a first-round college football playoff game. I think they're watching a first-round college football playoff game. So for Texas, all the things we said about you in the preseason suddenly are on the table with them contending for a national championship and making a playoff run and all those things. That is on the table. Now, unfortunately, you got to go play Georgia. And not just any Georgia. You got to play home Georgia betwixt the hedges. You got to play November Georgia. Because last week, to put this to bed, I was breaking down Georgia, Mississippi State, and I told y'all, like, hey, this game gives me the heebie-jeebies. Mississippi State, they got some firepower offensively. Georgia has been notorious for starting slow. I don't know, man. Georgia feels very trap game-ish to me. I don't know if Kirby Smart showed his team that or if they just heard that across the entire college football public space all week long and Georgia pounded it, or Kirby Smart pounded it into his Georgia team's head. Georgia came out there and thwacked Mississippi State. And it felt a little bit to me watching Georgia take belt to cheeks against Mississippi State like we had seen a flip be switched internally in Athens. If that's the case, man, we're in for an absolute battle. First question in this game, is Arch seeing it clearly? Because it feels like the last couple of weeks against Mississippi State and against Vandy, Arch is seeing it and he's trusting it. You listen to different people in the space and they talk about Arch's eyes being so much better. If that's the case, here we go now. Because I trust Steve Sarkisian given a full bye week, and I trust these weapons at Texas, should they all be healthy, they're going to be able to get something going in the pass game here against Georgia. Now, for the record, I don't know if I love the full 3-and-a-hitch drop-back pass game against Georgia. I like a lot more of the get it out on the perimeter, the extension of the run game, if you will. Make sure it's out of Arch Manning's hands quickly, read it all pre-snap, and have all the answers, and then go from there. That's possible here for Texas. It's very, very possible. Now, on the flip side of that, though, yeah, it's a year ago. Okay, it's a different Georgia football team. But I think we all saw that snapshot of Arch Manning getting into the game against Georgia at the end of the first half and then coming off the sideline after getting a strip sack. And the camera pans to him during the broadcast, and Arch is just like glazed over, big eyes, hair's a little bit disheveled. And maybe it was just the camera caught him in the wrong moment. Who hasn't been there? But it felt a little bit like, hey, this dude's in a blender right now. And the people operating that blender behind the counter is a one Glenn Schumann, DC for Georgia, and a one Kirby Smart. The blender boys, if you will. Now, here's something to watch, though. Georgia, they haven't really been a team that gets after the quarterback all that much. Georgia is currently 128th in college football in terms of sack rate, 3% on the year in terms of defensive snaps. So it would be very Kirby Smart-esque if they just threw a curveball at him here and they started getting after Arch. But if Arch is seeing it, letting it rip, there's going to be plays downfield. I fully believe that. Now, for Georgia, if that's the case, on the offensive side, once again, you will need dressed-up Georgia offense. We've made this comparison many times, but Gunnar Stockton and this Georgia offense to me is like the polo of college football. If you need to go get 40, you need to dress that polo up a little bit. It's a nice event. Throw on a little sports coat, throw some slacks on there, some dress shoes, you're good to go. If it's a little more casual, hey, go with the some shorts here, some Vans. We just need a $196 from you, Gunnar, and a couple of yards on the ground. 2 touchdowns, don't turn the football over. We can do that. It's going to be the former in this spot. It's going to be, we're going to probably need to score a little bit here against this Texas offense. Now, I feel that way for 2 reasons. One, you would like to be able to, obviously, if Texas is scoring points, keep pace with them. Let's say Texas has a slow start. Let's say, hey, those hedges just got some magic to them, and Arch Manning is kind of having a slower start off the bye week, and Georgia's playing with some inspiration in November Georgia fashion. You want to be able to force the issue with Arch Manning. All of a sudden you look up, if you're Arch Manning, 14-0 Georgia. Hey, I start to maybe press a little bit. Maybe I start to fit some throws in some windows I wouldn't have if it was a tied football game. You get Arch Manning pressing against that Georgia defense with who's in charge of that defense, That's where this thing gets very, very slippery if you're a Texas fan. Now for Georgia, I'm keeping a very close eye on what Oscar Delp's doing in this game. Go back to the Vandy game. Texas, for whatever reason, had trouble aligning to stop the passing game to the tight ends. We'll see if they fix it in this spot, but Eli Stowers, who's, to be fair, one of the best tight ends in college football, had a career, he's had 7 catches for $146 and 2 touchdowns. Has Texas fixed that? Because if they haven't, Gunnar Stockton has proven he's good enough downfield to beat you, and Oscar Delp, I think, is every bit as dangerous as they want Eli Stowers to give this secondary, and quite frankly, that second level of that Texas defense, some real issues. The matchup of the game to me in this spot, the Texas front 7, Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, you know all the names, against this Georgia offensive line. Can Texas keep Georgia from just sitting back and pounding the rock? Because Georgia has been a bully on the ground. Even in losses, like the one loss that Georgia had this year to Alabama, they went for over 200 yards on the ground. That statement drive to start the Tennessee game. Again, 200 yards on the ground against that Tennessee team. 200 yards on the ground against Ole Miss. 300 yards against Mississippi State. Can Texas, maybe not take that away, but just neutralize that a little bit? Just make it more of a negotiation than a definitive, hey, this is what we're going to do here for Georgia. Because as good as Gunnar Stockton is, a lot of what he's been able to do has been off of play action, has been off of this threat of, well, hey, we got to commit extra numbers to the box because you're Georgia, you're on the football so well, we got to pay attention there. And then you have Zachariah Branch downfield. I mentioned Oscar Delp, Noah Thomas, rather. That's something to keep an eye on here when it comes to how Georgia's going to attack offensively. Who are you if you take the run game away? Just something to keep a pulse on. Because if Georgia can just run the football, could be a long day anyway. Georgia's top 10 in America when it comes to game control. Time of possession numbers favor Georgia drastically there. Also, just helping your quarterback out, being able to run the football, as we just mentioned, would go a long way in deciding this game if you're the Dogs. Now, on the flip side, we haven't really mentioned the Texas run game. Like, make no mistake, Texas, the way that they're built this year offensively, it's not supposed to be the Arch Manning show. Because that was kind of the narrative coming into the year, was Arch Manning's the second coming of Cam Newton. He's going to walk in there and take over games. And it's like, well, yeah, his last name is Manning, so I get why people get carried away with that thought. But like Steve Sarkisian, his offenses are built to run the football and throw the ball off of that. If you want to help Arch Manning in this spot, Texas, find some rhythm in the ground game. Find a way to take some pressure off of Arch and give him a little bit of 2nd and 4, 3rd and 2. That would be a way where you settle Arch into the game, get the bye week rust off of him, if that's a thing that exists, and you have a shot to go keep your college football playoff hopes very much alive by beating a team in Georgia that I'm expecting to be number 5 tonight in these rankings at their own place. Not a bad resume booster for the folks out there in Austin. So I really like what Arch has done the last couple of weeks, man. I do. Over 300 yards the last 2 weeks. He looks more comfortable. He looks more confident. He's letting it rip. We're seeing a little bit more of an edgy Arch Manning, which I'm here for all the way. But I think that Kirby Smart and this Georgia defense, again, November Georgia, not to knock Vanderbilt or knock Mississippi State, but I just think that the personnel of Georgia is a little bit different than what they've seen. I think that the overall momentum Georgia has right now, a little bit different than what Texas has dealt with. If it was in Austin, I might feel different, but I think Georgia finds a way to get it done again. I think it could be Tracy, Georgia. It could be Georgia fourth quarter finds a way to get it done. I think it's a close game for the duration. I think Texas starts out frisky, but at the end of the day, man, Gunnar Stockton, in Gunnar Stockton aw shucks fashion, just finds a way to make a couple more plays at the end of this thing. Maybe a couple less mistakes, too, than what Arch Manning does. Final score, Georgia gets it done, and Georgia covers. Dogs 31, Longhorns 24 in Athens, as Georgia keeps their SEC championship hopes very much so alive. But that'll be fun. Excited to break that one down after the fact as well. But don't count Arch and the boys out, man. Got a high hand right now, and maybe that makes a difference. But again, we're rolling with the Dogs.